I used to look like this. I was eating what felt like a horse every day. I was training every day and nothing in my body was changing. It was an awful feeling. But now I'm getting progress every day. My strength is improving and my physique looks better. I'm going to explain why the PPL split is the worst thing you could possibly do right now. And the reason being is because everyone has a different weakness. Everyone has a different strength. So you should not be training with even dispersion across your body. Let me go more in depth.
The PPL split. It trains your strengths, not your weaknesses. This is the biggest issue I ran into, is I realized that although I was gaining size, I wasn't gaining aesthetics where I needed them to be. My arms and shoulders looked terrible. Doing the PPL split just meant that my strengths, which was I had okay lats and I had an okay chest, they just got bigger and then everything else stayed the same and stayed small, and then it made me look more disproportionate. So that's why you do not want to be doing PPL anymore. PPL is good to start, but then as soon as your weaknesses are identifiable, move on. You have to move on. So I trained PPL for years, mediocre progress. I went to 7 days a week in the end where I was doing push, pull legs, push, and then I'd restart. So I wasn't even taking a day off because I just wanted results and I still wasn't getting it. And my weak muscles stayed weak, like I mentioned before. It was excruciating because it was like I was told to do PPL and nothing would work. I'd do PPL and then I would do drop sets on those weak muscles like my arms and my shoulders and assume that drop set, going hard on that drop set would help. But my overall volume didn't go up. I didn't put more time and energy into those muscles than I should have. And what was even more annoying was my strengths improved faster and made me look worse, like I mentioned before. So I was training my PPL and my lats and my chest were getting bigger and I thought this was great. But then it just made me look weird because now I had a big chest and big lats, and then my arms and my shoulders looked silly because they were so small and behind. And then I realized when I looked at very aesthetic physiques, their shoulders were basically just as big as their chest. My shoulders looked like a seashell. Like it was so small. My shoulders were so small in comparison to my chest because my chest kept getting massive. Well, not massive, but it kept getting bigger. And then my shoulders were disproportionately behind, and it was very frustrating. And yet all these generic routines that they have online, they ignore your individual weaknesses. Everyone has different weaknesses. I found that my triceps were very, very behind. And I didn't realize this until I figured out how to identify your weaknesses. So if you want a copy of this Google Doc, I will have a free community in the link below, and you can join that and you can get access to this doc completely for free. So if you want to use this, go for it. So the steps I took, I developed a weak point protocol. And this was because I realized that if I put more volume toward my muscle groups that were weak, then they would catch up. And that would mean that I'd be putting less volume in my strengths. So more volume in my weaknesses, less volume on my strengths. My physique would total to a look that would look far more aesthetic than where I was going. Where I was going was not good. And you might have been on the same path right now where you're training so much, but then your strengths are getting stronger, your weaknesses are getting weaker, and then your body sort of just looks, even though you're gaining weight, your body just looks not so good. So yeah, this is what I did. I took a photo of my physique and I flipped it. So I would have and you've probably done this with your face before. If you have a photo of your face and you flip it, you go, what the heck is that? And that's a good thing because it makes you less subjective about your own appearance. So if you flip a photo of your physique, you can identify pretty much straight away what your weaknesses are if you can't already. So that's how I identified them. And then when I found that my arms were the thing that were holding me back the most, then I made a routine for them pretty much. And I made my routine specifically, I made my routine more volume-based for triceps, and then second was biceps. And then I did some forearm training as well. And then within a couple months, I saw my physique change far more than it did over the years of training PPL. And you can see in this photo below. So what this is it shows you that I've put that red circle there myself, and that's to symbolize PPL. So if you do a PPL, everything sort of just gets trained at a mediocre level and nothing really grows significantly. So what I did is I realized that my arms needed to be hammered. Now back, because I do a lot of chin-ups as well, My back will still get affected, but it is nice to have a good back, obviously, for that V taper, so you can look very aesthetic. But my arms and my shoulders were my two biggest weaknesses. And then the back was a byproduct just from doing arms so much. So try to ignore that. But my arms, you can clearly see I am prioritizing them a lot. And that is what helped me. I made sure that my routine really dug into my arms. So yeah, bis, tris, and then my forearms. And then shoulders, because I knew that was my second weakness. But I wouldn't worry about doing this. I'd worry about just finding one weakness and then smashing it. So finding your thing that's holding you back. Let's say it's your chest. Let's say your chest is so flat that you just need to prioritize that more. Do that. And what I did was I switched to a full body split to accommodate for this. So if you do a PPL, obviously you're doing chest and tris on day 1, back and bis on day 2, and then legs on day 3. And then you're effectively doing one muscle group every 3 days, which is okay. But with this, if you do a full body, then what that means, and there's a way you can do it too, where it's very efficient, you're not spending hours in the gym, but you identify your weaknesses and then you do a full body split focused on those weaknesses. So my full body split does a lot of biceps, does a lot of triceps, and then I do more compound movements to hit the rest of my other muscle groups that I don't really need to grow right now. So for example, legs, my legs are already pretty well built. So I just do some leg press and then that's it, because I don't want to overdo my legs to the point where I have to then catch up my weaknesses even more. I want to get everything to a stable level so that then I can get to the point where I can say, okay, now what's my weakness? Because if my arms grow so much that I think, okay, I've got a new weakness now, then I shift my focus. But I don't want to overgrow my legs to the point where I just have to keep catching up all the time. It's better to get to a foundation where everything looks good and then you can grow with a PPL. If you've got no weaknesses, then PPL. But everyone, unless you look like David Lade, everyone has a weakness. And then this is what happened. So my arms started finally growing and they were behind for years. So you can see in these photos, just take a look. Like my arms were just not meant to grow. Went into a calorie surplus. I was doing PPL. They're obviously under the table, but my legs were growing more because they responded better to this PPL. My strengths were growing. But then my arms, they just stay behind. I'm 24 here. I know, almost 24 here. So I'm 26 now. And that's what my arms look like at 24. They just weren't growing. They weren't responding. That's years of doing PPL. So as a kid, obviously my arms were very, very small. And that's made me realize now that I'm just genetically predisposed to having smaller arms, even if I train them in a PPL. So when I focus on them though, then they actually grow. And now my arms, because I've focused on them, they're getting to the point now where they are a strength. And that is awesome. Having a weakness that was weak for so long, and then all of a sudden you can confidently say that, yeah, they're a strong point for me now. It's a very good feeling. Now, for those who have stayed to this point, I do personal coaching for this program, but I only have 4 spots available right now. So if you want to work with me one-on-one and grow weak arms or shoulders, if they're your weak point, because I've gotten really good at growing people's arms and shoulders, then there's a link in the description. First come, first serve. So again, I'm going to conclude and wrap everything up. Most routines train your whole body evenly, even though your body isn't balanced. Aesthetic physiques come from fixing weak points, not growing everything equally. So PPL, unless you are David Lade already, then you're probably very satisfied with your physique, and then click off this video. It won't make a lot of sense for you, but PPL will delay your aesthetic gains if you just keep growing everything at the same pace. So identify your weakest muscles and then change your frequency and volume for those weaknesses. So make sure that you really push on them a lot. And then build your routine around your body, not your generic program. People find a program online and they try to build around that program, and they think that program is the be all and end all of all programs and it'll work for them. It would have worked for someone because guess what? That program probably was targeting that person's weaknesses. When you grow the right muscles, your entire physique changes quickly. The weakest muscles that you have need the stimulus to grow. If you just do a PPL and you have weak forearms, for example, let's say everything's fine, but your forearms, this is kind of me. My forearms, even though I played tennis, I play a lot of tennis and that's what my forearms look like. So obviously they don't respond a lot. You need to focus on your weaknesses and then you'll look so much better. And then you'll actually be confident in your body.